Welcome to the Rise of Cryptocurrencies show. Today I'm speaking with one of my favorite guests and a living legend in the world of small cap companies and early stage opportunities, and he's a big time winner. He's extremely modest and humble, though he's a keynote speaker in virtually every major natural resources conference that he attends. I'm of course talking about CEO of US Global Investors and chairman of Hive Blockchain Technologies, the only sub $1 billion market cap pure blockchain mining company in the world. Frank Holmes, how are you today?
I'm excellent. And yourself?
Frank, 2.5 months ago, you invited my partners and I to your headquarters in San Antonio, and for many hours we dissected every moving part and every single angle of the launch and corporate merger between decades long billionaire tycoon Frank Giustra and his successful Fiora Group, who are you and him are great friends, and they merged with the number one privately held blockchain mining company, Genesis Mining. And as we went over all of the information, and I of course want to get your take about everything that's going on right now and all the details. But before we get into that, I want to ask you about big picture macro outlook. Judging by the data you're looking at, does the US market look poised for another year of remarkable gains? Many argue that stocks are in a bubble, but of course, there are many reasons that show the valuations can head even higher from here. Wealth Research Group sees the Dow as potentially hitting 36,000 points in the next 12 to 18 months. So long as interest rates remain below 2%, inflation remains steady, and tax cuts are in place, it can take a while before we roll over into a recession. What are your thoughts about this?
Well, I think it's a big question because how will unravel that California, Chicago, Illinois, New York area, Boston, they're all big tax states and tax cities, and if you live in those, you can deduct that from your federal income tax, and part of the budget is you're not going to be able to. So that's going to impact the property decision making, etc., and it's going to make Texas much more attractive. So how that all shifts, I don't really know. I think that more important is that a lowering of corporate taxes will show more capex spending, and that's always been positive for growth in the economy. And I think that what you're seeing from Trump is Trump was elected by a lot of Democrats, and they call them in Texas blue dog Democrats or financially conservative Democrats, who are just exhausted from the creeping regulations in every part of the economy that they can't grow their business. And so they've sent in a tough guy, a bully, to deal with bullies. And we're seeing that. We're seeing going after him with the FBI tweeting things out. Just an ongoing saga. But the market trades higher. And I've been commenting on this. That why does the market trade higher? Because the quant funds are 60% of all the trading. And the quant funds take the data that's filed every day, filed with the U.S. government, and they go through word by word in seconds. And I've shared with you the Trump bot, the Trump and dump bot, where within 20 milliseconds that Trump says anything negative about a stock, they're short. If they likes anything, they go long. And they play that sentiment analysis. It all comes from Stanford University, and it's called NLP, Natural Language Processing, and it is the backbone of Google. So the quant funds have this stuff on steroids, turbocharged, and they are basically saying to you the stock market's trading higher, that there's lots of positive things happening in the government, but you're not going to see it because most of the media just don't like them. And he does make irrelevant people relevant with his sometimes very silly tweeting, and it's annoying that he does these things, but still he is pushing back on regulations, and there's a change taking place. So if he gets enough fiscal stimulation by the way, President Clinton did. President Clinton streamlined welfare. President Clinton went after a whole bunch of sectors of the economy and deregulated. He unleashed the internet at the same time, deregulated telecommunications, and it exploded. So we can have that under Trump. He's just not as charming with the media as Clinton was. And so you have to, as an investor, be able to say, there's a wonderful book, by the way, it's called The Wisdom of Crowds, and that it basically says that there's times when crowds are wise. And right now, I would say the quant funds are able to digest the data. They read 250 pages of Fed minutes in 1 minute, and will immediately start making a decision to buy or sell from that. And that for you to feel confident with. There's something happening with Brexit. I was just over in England and had gave a speech with Mr. Niall Farage lunch, and just what he sees is that he himself looked at himself as a disruptor, like Amazon is a disruptor and Uber is a disruptor. He's a disruptor against socialism, and that Trump is all part of that. And so if that's true, then I think that justifies you'll see markets trade higher.
You were a keynote speaker at the Gold and Silver Summit about 4 weeks ago in San Francisco. Mining virgin coins of cryptocurrencies and mining actual elements of nature out of the ground have their shared characteristics and commonalities, but they also have unique differences. How can you compare and contrast between the two?
Well, it's a great question. Well, when I was there, my speech was ICOs versus IPO, and how can junior mining companies use the ICO market to replace it? And I was educating people that there's a big change going on. And what really blew me away was in May when I was at the Consensus Conference, which is a big blockchain conference in New York, and Abigail Johnson, the CEO of Fidelity, is speaking. And I said, what? She doesn't speak at investment conferences, and she's the keynote. But she has $2.5 trillion in assets. They're the second biggest discount broker in the world. And she has all of her employees with Bitcoin wallets, and she has a rig in her office, and they're mining. And she says that blockchain technology is going to be the big revolution. And so she has many of her scientists, over 1,000 of them, working on coding of how they can get their costs down and do transactions with less errors. And I just thought that was remarkable. This is what a thought leader, but it's not in the mainstream. And then I found out when I was launching my Go Gold ETF, which is outperformed the GXJ 94% of the time over rolling 12-month periods for a decade. We launched that in June. The New York Stock Exchange said they invested in Coinbase. And then all of a sudden I met another the following week, a lady that consulted on USAA investing in Coinbase because they couldn't get into the business because of all the anti-money laundering risks and concerns. So what they did is they made an investment in Coinbase, which is a wallet exchange. And the remarkable story here is that in 3 years, Coinbase has gone from a $75 million valuation to $1.7 billion. They have gone from scratch to 13 million customers. And for Schwab is 30 years to get 10 million customers. So they surpassed Schwab. Now, the average assets per an account is much smaller than Schwab. But what's remarkable about Coinbase is it takes only 2 minutes to open an account, maximum 5. It takes 2 days to open a brokerage account, sometimes 5. So the millennial, which is now surpassed in demographic studies more than baby boomers, that new millennial is making quicker decisions, and they're not going to wait 2 days, 3 days to buy a hot stock, and they want to trade something that's growing. And ICOs are growing. They're growing rapidly, along with the growth in Bitcoin and Ethereum. But what's interesting is that most of the new ICOs, initial coin offering it stands for, are on the backbone of the Ethereum model. Well, all this stuff is all coming, I'm sharing with you in 6 months so fast. And you're seeing Genesis Mining, which is the largest cryptocurrency mining company in the world, where you can be a small shop. You can have a Subway store, and at the same time, you can be mining cryptocurrency by using their cloud services and their algorithms and their computer graphic cards. And so they've grown in 4 years from nothing to $1.5 billion in revenue, and they have 1.5 million customers. I mean, I was just blown away by the sheer magnitude of growth, and they're growing at 50,000 a day. Coinbase some days are 100,000 a day. So there's something big that's out there outside of the normal channels of buying and selling stocks, and there's nothing that a mutual fund can go buy. They can't buy these cryptocurrencies because they're worried about anti-money laundering laws. That is, some hacker got paid and blocked in Bitcoin, and that an ETF goes and buys it. So they don't want that. So they won't allow the products to go live. So along comes the opportunity with Hive. And who's Hive's partner? Genesis. Who's Genesis? Largest mining company in the world. This is their first public vehicle. And so what do? We're going to mine coins, and we're going to bank them we'll sell a few of them on volatility models, but basically we're going to become banking them. We're going to bank virgin coins that have no issues with this anti-money laundering laws, which is perfect. So what do we have? We have an infrastructure company that's basically becoming a bank of these coins, and a way it's in mining. And it just shocked me that in 1 month, it's the fastest growth ever in Canadian history, from $30 million to $1 billion in market cap, and massive daily trading volume. Why is that? Because we make money, and we've already started generating revenue. And our goal was to go from $1 million a month to $5 million, $4 million a month. So we'd have a run rate of $50 million a year. And at $50 million a year, we're going to make, based on all the performance. Now, there's always business models that suggest this, and that's why you make the decision. But gross margins of 75% and net free cash flow, 25 million on 50 million. When we get it to $100 million, we make 50 million. Well, why is that important? Well, capital stock prices, they trade on a multiple to revenue, a multiple to earnings, a multiple to free cash flow. So what, and then you sit back and say, well, what happens when you're first mover? You're the first guy of the blocks. You get a huge multiple, huge, because there's no other place for someone to buy it. And when you look at Amazon, it trades at 200 times earnings. You look at Tesla, it trades at 6 times revenue. And General Motors trades at 0.6 times revenue. So for every dollar of revenue, Tesla is 10 times greater than General Motors because it has first mover advantage. And that's what we have. We're the first infrastructure company. We're the first company out there that's mining virgin coins and banking them. So it caught the imagination of so many investors, and that's why it exploded. And so if it trades at $1 billion market cap, what's that? That's at 40 times free cash flow per forma. Well, other stocks like NVIDIA makes the cards, they trade at 60 times earnings. So it's not unreasonable what's taking place.
Going back to the similarities of mining coins and mining elements of nature, can you explain that to us?
Well, this whole concept is so important. That's why no ETF has been able to get off the road. And an interesting part is that I was looking to launch a product, and I went to the regulators in Canada and the US and just couldn't get a product launched. And so I became more steeped in knowledge. And my friend Frank Trisha calls me, so I got this opportunity. I really don't know, but the young guys do. What do you think? Well, I was just really lucky that I've been doing this research. And when I dug down, I said, I'm in. And I put up $5 million. And rather than launch a product, I turned around and said, I'm going to invest in this. And I became the chairman because I really believe this is a growth industry at a macro scale. I believe it's going to be blockchain technology is going to revolutionize so many industries. And Bitcoin is what the emails were to the internet. Blockchain is woken up like the internet.
Now, Wealth Research Group members, readers, and listeners have had the chance in the past 365 days to learn about the cryptocurrency sector. Frank, we highlighted Bitcoin at $400, Ethereum at $12, Dash at $30, Monero at 50 cents, Steem at 20 cents, Litecoin at $20, and with traditional companies, we've only covered Hive blockchain technologies. We began coverage on September 18th when it was trading for 74 cents Canadian. It hit a high of 6.75 Canadian, a ninefold move, 900%. And since then, it's been halved to about 3.50 Canadian. And right now, you released big updates, and the stock is looking great. All the 30 cents paper is getting infiltrated into the market right now, and it looks amazing. Now, Doug Casey, we had him on a few days ago. He's a sizable investor. He's a famed speculator, and he predicted that the company could reach $10 or above in the next year or two. Can you provide a business recap for us? There are many shareholders that are tuning in.
Well, first of all, from Doug's lips to God's ears, $10, and so I love to hear that positive vision. And is it doable? That's always the question you have to ask. And so coming back on the business model performance, when we started off with this venture, the model said that we could get it up to based on the hash rates. Now, when you look at this in mining, Hash rate is like your grade of gold. What's the grade? For every ton of rock you produce, if it's high grade, you get more ounces of gold. If it's low grade, you get less ounces of gold. But every day you're processing 1,000 tons of rock, what's your grade is so important for how many ounces you produce. And so the grade, the hash rates change a lot. And that's the thing with this space is the grade for the gold mining changed a lot. And that's just for people to recognize that when we dug down and we said, yeah, but what's the margins in the business then? The margins are so fat. And so you need, but there's limited places in the world where you can get cheap electricity and cool weather. And that's why we've been focused on the Nordic countries. And so when we did the business model, we said, well, we can get it from $1 million a month to $1 million a week. How much power would we have to have? And what would the hash rates have to be and the price of Ethereum and the Bitcoin? Well, we don't have Bitcoin at this stage, but we have Ethereum Classic. And so when we started digging down, it seemed very conceivable that as we bought more megawatts, that we could turn around and scale this to $50 million in free cash flow. To get that, we have to have $100 million in revenue. To get that, we have to have 100 megawatts. So you walk through and you say, okay, this is what I have to get. Where can I get the cheap power? Where can I get the technology? Well, we've got that with Genesis Mining. And so I think that we can get this thing up, as I mentioned earlier, $25 million of free cash flow. That's worth 40 times for first mover advantage in the capital markets. That's $1 billion. And if we take it to 50 million, that's worth $2 billion. And so I think that it's very doable over the next 3 years to go to $10.
With the wind at your back, the entire sector is on fire. The fact that your company is one of the only 5 companies in the blockchain index, and certainly the only one which is sub $1 billion in that group, the growth prospect boggle the mind. With cryptocurrencies, there's literally so many turns that you have to make in order to invest even $1,000, because the exchanges don't accept more than that per day or per week. Hive Blockchain Technologies, it's the most liquid stock on the TSX Venture right now. You can come in with 100,000. In fact, one of our readers came in with 145,000 and turned it into more than $500,000 in the past 3 months. And I want to ask you, is that an advantage going into 2018? Because mass adoption means lots and lots of institutions that will want to come in with 7 figures and 8 figures. So is that something that is that puts Hive in the driver's seat?
Yeah, I think we're going to see institutions come into the space. And Bill Miller, who's the top performing, the only fund manager to beat the S&P for 25 years every year, left and set up a hedge fund. And he's 30% long Bitcoin. And his fund's up like 80% this year. So you're getting very smart guys like him that manage a lot of pension fund institutional money. They're big advocates as far as exposure. And it's getting people like that. So what I share with you is that when we first launched our bot deal, 3 days later after coming out, like you mentioned, at 70 cents, well, it went to $2. We did a financing at $1.50. And the biggest investors were Fidelity. So it's getting institutional appeal. And since then, we've had other institutions come in and buy the stock. The first people were the accredited investors. And then you had retail people that had more wealth, but they had, I think, $25,000 minimum in Canada for accredited investors to participate in these financings. And it sold out, 30 some odd $1 million, the first one, because Genesis came in and purchased a piece to maintain their 30% ownership.
Lastly, Frank, I know that you're the chairman of the company. I know you have a sizable share position with the company. What is the role of the chairman in making sure that your competitive advantage stays intact?
Well, I think first of all, we have a competitive advantage with technology. There's some other deals been floated around when we look at them. They just don't have the Genesis advantage. It's like saying, I'm going to compare a Porsche to a Toyota truck. So it's their engineering is just the best. So I think we have that efficiency competition tops. I also think that we have liquidity. We're very, very liquid, and you have to have a complete machinery out there to create this awareness for investors. And I don't know if other companies are going to really be able to do that. Many are trying to copy the model of Genesis Mining and Hive, where the Genesis Mining, where someone's another group that does Bitcoins only, and they're bending in to own 50% of the company to raise capital, which is another avenue for investors to participate in Bitcoin only. That's all they do. But I think you create a bigger industry, and everyone grows with it right now. But we have clearly the first mover advantage, and I think our goal is to be the Amazon of the industry. There was other people that wanted to compete with Amazon, but that's our goal. So we'll see how we do.
Frank, you're a class act, a true red-blooded entrepreneur. If you ever write a book, it's a must for any investors. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you, my friend.
In the past few days, we've seen Litecoin, one of Wealth Research Group's earliest suggestions, at $20 explode and reach $340, a 1,700% return. We've received countless emails from you guys about turning $200 into $3,000 and $1,000 into $14,000. But by far, the subscriber that has made the most this year has to be the one that invested $145,000 US in Hive Blockchain Tech, a company we've been featuring since it was made public in September. It made 423% return for this fella, and he banked over $500,000. I'm extremely thrilled, but as I see it, he took profits too early. Hive Blockchain Tech will grow into, and this is just my own opinion, the industry leader and become a major conglomerate. We just released our #1 cryptocurrency to watch for 2018. Go to wealthresearchgroup.com/2018, and for detailed analysis of Hive Blockchain Tech, go to wealthresearchgroup.com/must. We are also in the midst of reviewing the top 60 cryptocurrencies trading right now to complete our top 5 cryptocurrencies for 2018 report. Make sure you're a subscriber for that. Thanks for joining us, and make sure you check out Jonathan Ross, the investigative journalist documentary about Hive Blockchain Tech called Over and Out, Blockchain Tech, Bankers Buried, on our YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us.